Hey, this is Daniel with the Nostril, and today I want to do a comparison video. This is going to be one of those comparison videos where we take two scents that are really similar to one another and kind of pick apart some of the nuances of what makes them different. And these two scents are from the same house. One of them is a classic. One of them is, in many ways, a modernized version of the first. The house is Guerlain, and the scent is Vetiver and Vetiver Extreme. Both of them are fantastic, although they differ in certain ways and are similar in certain ways. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the note breakdowns, what these both smell like, how they're different from one another, how they're the same in many ways or similar to one another, what situations they'll work for in terms of wear, pricing, and then just generally which one of these two I like better. So if you're interested in learning more about Vetiver and Vetiver Extreme by Garland, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it today. For most men in the fragrance community, or most men who really wear fragrance in general, if you talk about classic Vetiver scents, there is really one that comes to mind, and it is Guerlain's Vetiver. Now I'm going to show you the bottle. This is the reformulated bottle, but this reformulation smells pretty awesome. I don't think you should have any worries about picking it up, or you shouldn't obsess about finding a vintage version. I do hear that they smell a little bit different, and maybe this smells a little bit updated for kind of modern noses compared to vintage batches, but I think this smells fantastic. And I really like these new bottles. Now, this is a video comparing Vetiver, the original, with Vetiver Extreme. And you can see these bottles are the same, just with a different label on the front and a slightly different juice color. But I really like the way that they feel in my hand, the indent for the label right here, just the way that these bottles are built and shaped. I really like the unification of all the different bottle types in the men's line. I think it's really nice. That said, this is a comparison video, and so first off, I want to tell you what these scents smell like. And we're going to start with the classic. We're going to start with Vetiver by Garland. This has been around for decades. It's been reformulated a bunch of times, but still smells fantastic, and it's so inexpensive. You can find a bottle of this for like 32 bucks, maybe slightly more, but really around there on discounters like Fragrance X, Fragrance Buy, and Fragrance Net. Great price. This is a scent that smells way more expensive than that. Now, really, what that's owing to is a really nice grassy vetiver. There is, according to the name, this should be a vetiver heavy scent, and it is true. This is. The vetiver here is grassy and slightly spicy. It is not particularly earthy. It is 0% dank or damp. 0% dirty. It's clean, it's refined, it's classy. That vetiver is supported by a juicy and spicy bergamot. The bergamot here is right at the top. You spray it on, you get bergamot. And with that bergamot, it's mixing with some nutmeg, and it's mixing with a green tobacco note. And that's kind of those are the main players in this scent that really produce the classic accord that is Guerlain Vetiver. Now, there's something about Guerlain fragrances, if you're not aware, that you really need to know, is that people have called their construction Baroque in the sense that if you look at their list of notes, they're really complicated. There's tons of notes, and each of those notes is kind of playing a little piece of the overall puzzle that smells like something pretty unique. So Guerlain Vetiver, there's vetiver, of course. There's tobacco, there's nutmeg, there's bergamot, there's a little bit of geranium going in there, but all together, it's more than the sum of the parts. It smells like Guerlain Vetiver. It just is a unique smell. It is instantly identifiable. You smell it once, you're going to remember it forever. There's not a vetiver that smells like this. Many have tried to copy it. There's only one. The geranium in here is playing a pretty important part in the overall note accords as well. Although I have to say, some folks are going to smell this and think it smells a little bit dated. And the geranium is one of the reasons why that's going to happen. It's a little bit metallic, it's a little bit sharp, and some people are going to think it smells too old for them to wear. And hey, that's fine. You should be fully willing to admit when a scent is too much or too mature for you to wear. You don't want a scent to wear you. You want to wear the scent. So if you smell Guerlain Vetiver and go, yeah, I can't pull that off, be honest with yourself. That's fine. One day you might get to the point where you want to wear Guerlain Vetiver, but my guess is that if you're under 25, this might not work for you. But as a 33-year-old, yeah, this is perfect, wonderful. And I don't think it smells dated. I think it smells vintage. I think it smells old school a little bit, but I don't think it smells dated. In the way that, say, Drakkar Noir smells. No offense if you like Drakkar Noir, but it smells like it's from the 1980s and maybe should stay there. But this, even though it smells like it is of its era, it also smells somehow timeless. It is wonderful. Now, maybe about 10 years ago or so, Thierry Vasseur, who's currently the in-house nose for Guerlain, decided to update Vetiver for modern audiences. And they came out with a flanker of Vetiver, which was a surprise because I don't think there really have been too many flankers of the original Vetiver scent by Guerlain. They came out with Vetiver Extreme. And you can tell the juice color is a little bit darker. It's a little bit more green. And that's a pretty appropriate change. This is a little bit darker, a little bit more savory, and certainly quite updated for modern noses. Gone is that kind of slightly metallic, slightly sharp geranium note that might turn a few people off of the original Vetiver. Gone is that kind of green, maybe slightly astringent tobacco note in the original. Here it's been replaced with a smooth, relatively clean, but slightly dirty incense note. The incense here is also supported by tarragon, which is a slightly savory herb. And so this leans in a slightly more savory direction, slightly smokier, slightly earthier direction, a little bit in the direction of Encre Noire by Lalique. There are a few similarities. If you were to compare this with Encre Noire and this with Encre Noire, this is closer. Now, please don't take me as saying this smells like Encre Noire by Lalique. They do not smell the same. 100%, they do not smell the same. But this leans more in the direction of Encre Noire than this does. And that's owing to that incense, owing to that slightly savory accord. The vetiver itself smells like it's the same vetiver that was used in the original. It's just supported by different notes. And it leans to that smoky earthiness a little bit more. It's not quite as spicy. There's something about the dry down of vetiver, of the original vetiver, which I love, which is, I don't know, there's something, it's the nutmeg. It almost smells like there's cinnamon in it. I know there's no cinnamon in the notes, but I almost get a little bit of that cinnamon vibe. It turns really spicy on my skin, really as it moves into the heart. This doesn't do that. This stays smoky green all the way through. And it really does smell, if you think that Guerlain Vetiver is too old or too mature for you, this is, I think, more likely to work for your vibe. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a youthful scent. I still think it's in the vicinity of Guerlain Vetiver. They aren't 100% different. You can definitely tell that this is a flanker of the original Vetiver. But I do think that this smells more modern. It smells a little bit more along the lines of a scent that you'd expect to be released today or in the past 10 years versus something that was released decades ago. Which one do I like better? I think I lean towards wearing the original Vetiver more. I think I love that spicy dry down. This doesn't have that quite as much. It's a little spicy. It retains the nutmeg. Yeah, the nutmeg's still there. It's nice. There's nothing wrong with Guerlain Vetiver. In fact, it's a tough one because I reach for this fairly frequently too. This is a new bottle, and I've already put a little bit of a dent in it. Not a huge dent, but there's something missing. And yeah, this is, if I'm having a slightly more youthful day, this is going to work really well. If I want to smell professional and put together and slightly older than my age, this one's going to work really well. So honestly, I can't really decide between the two in terms of which one I like better. They're doing different things, and they both have that signature Guerlain vetiver vibe to them. The vetiver, again, is the same vetiver note in both. It's grassy, it's clean, it's not dirty at all, it's not damp or dank at all. It's really crisp and green in a really pleasant way. They hit on something great with the original, and they carried it through in the Extreme version. I have to take a little bit of issue with the name, though. Vetiver Extreme, this is not an extreme scent. This is still very much a work-appropriate scent. And, you know, the incense here is this is not an incense bomb. This isn't going to smoke anyone out. And in terms of performance and longevity, I actually think this is ever so slightly weaker in terms of sillage and projection versus the original. So Extreme does not seem like the right name. But beyond that, it's a fantastic scent. And both of them are great. Again, I have trouble deciding between these two. It really just depends on my vibe for the day, the way I'm feeling when I wake up in the morning and want to spray something on. If you have any questions about some of the differences and similarities that I've talked about between these two scents, please feel free to ask below. I will happily answer to the best of my ability. If you have any questions about either scent themselves, and not in terms of the comparison, but in terms of tell me more about the geranium in vetiver or something like that, please feel free, ask away. In terms of pricing, both of these are available on the discounters for less than $40, and so even though these are similar, they're not similar enough to be redundant in your collection. I think it makes sense to own both if you're a vetiver fan. I am happily the owner of both of these bottles. I don't feel like they step on each other's toes. They step on each other's toes too much at all. So in the end, Garland just does vetiver really well, and I have trouble picking between these two releases because they're both excellent. Thanks very much for watching, and we will see you soon.